don't know if you can see the disgust on my face. The Tom was already on the ground. He was down in there. I guess you can figure out what happened next. Gone. I know you probably can't see, but it's about 5 o'clock. Actually, I got up at 4:30 this morning. It's probably about 5:15 now, 5:30. And it is raining. You look up, you can't see any stars. There was no forecast of rain. This is opening day of deer season. And once again, the weather forecasters or the meteorologists get it wrong. For once, I like to see them get the forecast right. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wait it out. So my goal was, I was gonna go in there nice and early this morning, get there 30 minutes before daylight, get set up, ambush a big buck. That was the goal. So we'll see what happens next. It's about 10 to 8, came in here this morning. As I said earlier, heavy rainfall this morning, thunder, lightning. So I'm way behind the 8 ball. Going to a backup plan. If I hike all the way into where I wanted to go, which is over 1.5 miles, I think the deer are gonna already be moved out. So I think what I'm gonna do is, there's actually a little bench right here. I can hunt here, but I just jumped a doe coming in. So much for opening day, right? I've actually seen 3 deer this morning and hadn't even got in my tree stand yet. So I'm gonna circle around, and you can hear the rain dropping. You can't hear the acorns, but there's a heavy mass crop this year. I'm just gonna circle around and get just below another bench. See what happens. Okay, as you can see, it's cleared off. Got some partly cloudy conditions right now, which is 10 times better than it was this morning. Just kind of recap, this is opening day of deer season. I'm on public land, and you can tell there's a bench right through there. You can almost see where it levels off. I'm just below that bench. There's a couple of trails running below me. A lot of mass crops this year. The mass crop is extremely heavy. So got set up this morning. Didn't get to go to the place I wanted to go to because it was, thundering, lightning, and raining. Obviously, it's difficult to take the camera gear out in the rain. So they got the weather forecast wrong again. So I waited till daylight, and the rain had stopped, or so I thought. It wasn't in the forecast anyway. So I came up here, and since I was running behind, I decided not to go as far deep in national forest as I wanted. And I got to this spot, but then it got foggy. The wind started blowing. It got dark, and then it started raining. So it rained for about an hour. I sat through that, and now we're about 10 to 12. Didn't see a deer. I mean, that's open the morning for you in national forest. Sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's boom or bust. So we're gonna get down, regroup, and hopefully try to get in a position this afternoon where we can get a buck. Okay, going in this morning, and this is the 3rd day of deer season. Opening day was a washout. Had plenty of rain. It's about 57 degrees this morning, partly cloudy, and the wind's relatively still. Just gonna hunt a food source. Like I said, food's plentiful. Green food, soft mass, hard mass, it's everywhere. All right, it's about 10:30. Actually, it's 10:35. I haven't seen a deer all morning. What I want to do is I want you guys to take a look at what we got here. And there's a small logging road I've got to access. And that's some adjoining private property. Nice thick area, good for bedding. And then it goes up on this ridge here, and you can barely see through the top, through the leaves. Barely see some daylight, so it actually tops or hits its peak up there at the highest point, and then it drops down and does a little saddle on the other side. So a lot of times the deer will swing around that saddle, which is probably 120 yards away. They'll come around this way, or they'll come around from the left over here and come down through these trails. So you got white oak up there, a lot of poplar trees, maple. You got 4 or 5 red oaks up there. Then we got a bunch of chestnut oaks. And I've got my water feature that I put on the property about a month ago. It's probably 75 yards away over there. Probably the 2 best times to try to get a buck is the first week of the deer season, and obviously during the rut. I'm not telling you anything you don't know there, but that first week of deer season, you know, the deer are still doing their normal activities. Very little pressure is being put on the deer. So if you can get in there and find a buck, and find an area where he's been using, you got a good opportunity to get on him because he isn't in pressure. If you can find the areas that they're feeding on, and then find that bedding area where that buck's at, because he's going to be staying pretty much close to that bedding area for the most part. So anyway, just want to give you a look around what we got here, and then, you know, down here, it kind of swings around, and I got a little bench right there. So the deer usually come to the right hand side or the left hand side here, but didn't see anything yesterday afternoon, didn't see anything this morning. Just got to stick with it. Okay, I'm back on National Forest. The other day I was hunting on private land, and I said I was going to come up here, circle around some of these apple trees in here. You can see them. There's one right there, a small one. They're just littered all through this area. You can see it's pretty thick. And the other reason why I want to come in here is there's a little bit of an opening there. It used to be a field, but now it's all grown in. Really thick area. I'm going to blow these bucks' mind. Have you ever heard of a mock scrape in September? Well, that's what I just did. This right here is a natural scrape where this vine's at. You see where this vine comes down? Right through here. I just took me a stick, scraped it out, put some of my own 454. This is synthetic buck lure that I come up with. I'm going to put this out there, and I'm just going to see what happens. You know, it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insanity. So this is the first time I've ever done a mock scrape in September. So I'm in an area that's super thick, but at the same time, I got a lot of food. And once the soft mast stops, you can't see it. There's a holler over there. It drops down, and I just came to an area that is torn up, droppings, tracks, everything. I almost changed my strategy and just hung my stand there. Acorn trees are just dropping. The mast crop this year is extremely heavy, one of the heaviest I've seen in years. So there's a tremendous amount of food this year. So I got food, I got cover, I got the soft mast and the hard mast. I got that opening up there. And this game lands actually stops about 200 to 300 yards at the very top of this ridge. And then it goes into private land. So I'm pretty close to the border. And at the same time, just to spice it up, I'm throwing in my own 454 buck lure. So we're going to see what happens. I'm going to get in that huge cherry tree right there. Looks like I can only get about 15 to 17 feet up. But that's where we're going to get. Well, we had a good morning so far. This is I think it's the 4th hunt I've had so far this year. Did one on public land on Saturday on opening day. Had to sit through the rain. It's pretty much a washout. Saw a few does going in, but I didn't see anything in my stand. So came down and I hunted Monday afternoon here. Didn't see anything. Tuesday morning here, and Tuesday afternoon didn't see anything. And then this morning I see 3 deer. So I saw that little buck. He came through early this morning about 8 o'clock before that fog came in. Worked his way all the way around on this bench and was coming up through here. And you know, if he'd been a bigger deer, bigger buck, could have shot him. But then the doe, and I guess that yearling came in here, and she actually worked up but got a little spooked. I think the spike must have been just over the other side of this ridge still. He still may be down there, but he may run off once he hears me talking. But then she worked up and she got just below me. I had the camera arm extended as far out as I could go with it. And all she had to do was take a few more steps up the ridge. Instead, she went down the ridge. I could have shot her, but I would have had to step out on the front of my platform, and then I've been blocking the view of the camera. That's one of those, I mean, with bow hunting, it's a game of inches. So that's one of those situations where just let her go. Hopefully she'll come back in here and give us a shot. But they fed up here, but you can hear the acorns dropping in the background. So they went down, fed on some acorns and some green vegetation. So pretty good morning. Temperatures this morning were in the 50s. I think it was 57 when I got up here. There was no forecast of rain, but the fog did come through, which makes it pretty cool, you know, when you're hunting. This is still the first week of bow season, and like I mentioned before, the deer aren't spooked. Typically, there's no pressure on them unless it's come from hikers or people mountain biking, stuff like that on public land. When you're out there hunting, one of my strategies is, like I said, is hunt hard that first week. The deer aren't pressured, but find the major food sources. And there's food sources everywhere, and it's hard to find them. But if you find a lot of droppings and tracks, then that'll key into it. If the deer are spending a lot of time there, they're gonna leave more and more sign. I haven't seen any rubs, and that little buck that came through, he still had his velvet on. So, each buck is different. Some drop their velvet sooner, some drop their velvet later. I'm hoping to go back up on public land this afternoon. There's some apple trees, and like I said before, I haven't even scouted it. It's one of those situations where I think sometimes I may be my own worst enemy. I would scout, and I'm in there a lot, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm putting pressure already on these deer and changing their patterns. So what I did this year was all the areas that I'm very familiar with and I've harvested deer before, I didn't even go in them. I just stayed out of it. So what I'm gonna do is I've got my stand up there, try to get my stand, and I'm gonna move a circle ahead to where I think there's some apple trees. So that's gonna be the strategy for this afternoon, so we'll see what happens.